Celtics or Warriors?
I still think the Celtics have control. I think when going in there, obviously, and getting one game was huge for them. You do not want to be down 0-2 and put yourself in a must-win situation going back home to Boston. So I think they did a good job of obviously giving themselves a better chance to win the series, which I still believe they're going to win. But now having home court advantage, and I said this before, I'm still a little skeptical about the Celtics because they haven't shown me that they can be great at home. But I think they got control. They've really had two bad quarters. Those two third quarters have been the quarters that have really killed Boston. So they got to look at film and watch that, but they got to feel good about their game plan. They've not allowed Klay Thompson to get involved in the series. Jordan Poole hasn't been the same a guy we saw throughout the playoffs. So they've done a good job in containing both of those guys. Now you got to figure out Steph a little bit. Steph is averaging 30 for the series. He's shooting the three really, really well. He's really aggressive offensively. So now you got to figure out what are you going to do in his pick and roll coverages. He seems to be dominating when they're switching the bigs on him. So you got to figure out something to guard him. But the Celtics should feel really good where they at right now in this series. And one thing I can say is I believe the X factor is Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart has to figure out who he's going to guard consistently throughout the series and how he can impact this game in every which way possible, because they need him to be energetic, need him to do a little what Draymond's doing, just kind of all over the place, being energetic, presenting the physicality in this series. They need Marcus Smart to do that as well. So hopefully he can get going with the home crowd to get that energy for the Celtics.
Yeah, the Celtics definitely have control of this series right now. As you can say, they're playing with house money because they stole a game in Golden State's house. They just walked into Golden State in game one and won that game to the shock of the Warriors and their faithful. Now, here's a stat for you. For all the teams that have won a game one of the NBA Finals on the road, oh, my God. You know what those teams' win percentage is? 71%. Whoa, this has swung from Golden State slight favorite to now it's tilting towards them still in that game one on the road. So now you look at the Boston Celtics and their mentality of we walked in your house, stole your girl. Oh, you ran back out the house and said, no, we're going to stay together. But don't think we're even, because I shouldn't be able to walk in your house and steal your girl in the first place, even though she's back with you. And that's what I think everyone's getting caught up in that's rooting for Golden State. Oh, it's still 1-1. 1-1, it's same numbers, but doesn't feel the same, because Boston not only have 3 games at home versus Golden State only has 2 more, but more importantly, they have control of this series, knowing that they can take a 2-1 advantage and continue to keep this pace that puts the pressure on the Golden State Warriors. Now, we keep saying Golden State Warriors, but we know that they're being led by Steph Curry. Right now, if they finish this off and win this series, Steph Curry, obviously, finals MVP. But I love the game plan of the Boston Celtics. Even though they've had those couple or few bad quarters, it seems that their game plan is Steph is going to be Steph. But we know that Klay Thompson is not Klay Thompson physically, so let's not see Klay Thompson in performance. Oh, Draymond's going to be Draymond, Mr. Impact, but he creates for others, but what if there's no others to create for? So then it focuses in on Jordan Poole, defensive liability, but more importantly, this is a new stage for you as it is for the Boston Celtics. So we're going to test you, young man, to see if you can deal with this defensive intensity on the new stage, the biggest stage, the brightest lights. So far, it's almost worked to perfection in terms of not only stealing the game on the road, but having the control of this series.
Yeah, the truth of it is neither one of these teams has control of the series. Yes, the Boston Celtics have home advantage now because they still won. And yes, there's some meaning in those statistics that you rolled out there, Sellers. By the way, I got you a second earbud since you were worried about my connectivity. Yeah, exactly. Came through. Look, I almost feel like normally I'm talking to you guys for the benefit of our audience. I need to talk to our audience right now so they understand why you guys didn't go the direction that I am going right now, even though you know that I'm right. One, Twan, former Celtic, I know in your heart you'd love to see the Boston Celtics pull this through, and you're finding every reason to follow that. So you're looking at it going, hey, I know what the finals are all about. They've got home court advantage. They won a road game. Like, they're in position. even though you know as well as I do that they're not in control of themselves enough, particularly at home, to say that that's meaningful that they won that game one and tilted the scale. And Celis, you're just saying it with your chest because you picked the Celtics early on, even before it was popular to do so.
Yes,
so
yes.
you're going to keep going down that road. And I don't blame you for doing it. But as I look at this series, I think what makes it so compelling is that you can't count on either one of these teams. You can't count on Klay Thompson. You can't count on Jordan Poole. Like, there is up and down. The Golden State Warriors, for a defending champion, or let's say a previous champion, is very inconsistent. They're very up and down. We saw them get blown out by Memphis. Championship teams generally don't have the ups and downs that they do. And the Boston Celtics, if you're asking me which team is the better team in this series, I'd have to say the Boston Celtics, except they don't always play up to their capability. And so for that reason, I can't say that either one of these teams right now has control of the series, even if they go out and win game 3, because we've seen, particularly when it comes to Boston, they can fall down and get up and then show you how great they are. And the Golden State Warriors have done the same. So I don't know that we're going to see anybody have control of the series until we get to the last seconds of the deciding game. And that's where we're going to find out who actually comes out on top without ever actually having had control.
Rick, you make a great point, and I'm going to add to that. One thing that gives me confidence in the Celtics, and I believe they got control of the series, is what they've went through this playoff run. They've had a little bit of everything. They've had a lot of adversity. They had to go to 2 game 7s to get to this point. I just think they've went through enough. This group has enough resolve where there's nothing that's going to faze them. Losing last night, with they lost by 5 or 20, is not going to faze them. They don't lose back-to-back games. They have yet to lose a back-to-back game in the playoffs. So I'm very confident that they'll go home and take care of business, especially in game 3. And I think the Warriors have more adjusting to do than the Celtics as the series goes along. Steve Kerr made a great adjustment yesterday going to Gary Payton II. We haven't talked about him. I thought him coming back gave him a burst of energy. They also went with Otto Porter Jr. early. You didn't see Jordan Poole till very late in the rotation. So Steve Kerr made his adjustments. They played some zone. I mean, they're doing a lot of different things. And arguably their second best player, Klay Thompson, hasn't shown up in this series. And I don't know if it's going to get any better for him. They've done a terrific job of guarding him. So I think the Celtics feel like they're in control. You got really a one-headed monster on the offensive end that's creating all the problems right now in Steph. They're going to have to get some other guys going. And besides those 2 quarters, those 2 outbursts in those quarters, the Celtics have control right now. So I believe that going home, they still have control of the series, even though I picked the Celtics in 6, Rick.
Yeah. Hey, Slick, don't let him fool you, though. He's hiding something. He's burying the lead because he says, very confident in the Boston Celtics in game 3 and 4. He's also very hopeful because he's going to be sitting courtside at games 3 and 4. So Twan might throw on the XX jersey if things get testy out there because he's not only confident, but he's hoping that those Celtics, his Celtics, will prevail. I get it, man. I think something about the Boston Celtics that doesn't get talked about enough is their respect for their opponent, or sometimes even the fear from their opponent. Let's talk about that, because they went against the Brooklyn Nets in that opening series and swept them boys. Now, you could say that's a healthy respect, or maybe even a little bit of like, these are the Brooklyn Nets, the preseason favorites. They do have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and they didn't play around with their food. And then they get caught up playing the champions. Now, even though the champions were hampered because they didn't have Chris Middleton, still, they're the champions, and they take them to a game 7. To Twan's point, battle-tested, full, healthy respect. Now you go against the number 1 seed, and even though they had their injury concerns and issues, you still go through another battle-tested game 7, and you win that series. Boston is sitting there like, look, we have full respect for Golden State. You can even say it's a little bit of fear for them. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to do what we've done all the way to this point. Stay mentally tough and apply this pressure on you, especially defensively. But Golden State is feeling a certain way, like their fans keep talking about, oh, well, you know what? Everyone's not shooting well. Clay's not playing well. Jordan Poole looked good in game 2, but still, we don't have everything. Our shooters are not shooting. Okay, remember this. Boston's game plan is to make sure that they don't get off. And then you can't look at Boston and say, well, they're not playing well offensively, because that's not their game plan. Their game plan is exactly strength on strength. Golden State's offense against Boston's defense. Right now, it's a 1-1 series, but trust me, the control is in Boston.